to be perfectly blunt, it was extremely terrifying. It's like we were learning how to fly a plane, I believe, while we were in the air. When you put sweat equity in it, it means more. So it's been very, very rewarding. I mean, I'm still with it 8.5 years later. I think that ought to speak volumes.
I'm Dr. Scott Law, and I want to thank you for tuning in to the Smile Doctors Off Mute podcast. Dal, I am excited to sit down with you today to talk. I know that, oh man, we've been through some things together, and I have always appreciated your position in Smile Doctors. You were practice number one to join. Outside of the founders, you were the first, and it takes a great deal of, I'm just excited to hear what was going through your head, how has the journey been, and all the things. You've seen a ton of change in Smile Doctors over these last several years. But let's start off really quick for the audience to get to know you. Tell us a little bit about your ortho journey. So where'd you go to school? Where'd you start practice? All that good stuff.
Well, I went to undergraduate at the University of Georgia in Athens. And then I went to my dental school at the Medical College of Georgia in Augusta, Georgia. And then I practiced general dentistry for a year. Back then, they wanted us to have experience before we went into a residency. So I worked in the prison system for the state of South Carolina for a year practicing general dentistry, which was educational.
Wow.
Beyond belief. It taught me how to be a man, like real quick. And then I went to the Medical College of Georgia for my ortho training, graduating in 1994.
Okay. Where'd you start? Where was your first practice? Where'd you start?
Well, I started in Albany, Georgia in 1994, and I started from scratch, which nobody does that. Started in next to a dentist in Albany, and the first couple of years were, lean, but, in that model, it took about 5 years to really get the practice up and going. So it was a lot of delayed gratification, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So talk us through this. So as one of the OGs inside Smile Doctors, how long have you been apart, and how did you first come to know Smile Doctors before you joined?
Well, that all goes back to Dana Fender. So Dana and I went to dental school together, and in late 2015, I had heard that Dana had helped start a new company. I didn't know you at the time, but essentially Dana and this partner, Greg Goggins, and you started Smile Doctors in the fall of 2015. So I got wind of that, and I called Dana, and the first thing Dana told me was, I said, Dana, tell me a little bit about this. And Dana's like, Dad, you don't want to join it. Just don't worry about it. It's a classic Fender, so I'm like, well, okay, now I'm really interested. So we decided to join. I decided to join, which I joined in April of 2016. And, to be perfectly blunt, it was extremely terrifying. The private equity world, at least in dentistry, was relatively unknown back then. And there was a lot of faith, a lot of trust in Dana. Again, I hadn't met you. Greg Goggins, I did know. So just a lot of trust when we first started. And wow, we've come a long way.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've been apart now for how many years?
Well, April of 16. So I guess a little over 8 years, 8.5 years, going on 9. Yeah. April of 25 would be 9 full years with Smile Doctors.
Right. Wow. That's awesome. Awesome. Coming right up on it. So you've seen a great deal of change. You've seen, man, so much has happened over those 8.5 years. What were some of the, talk about those early days? What were some of the struggles, surprises, all that stuff?
Oh, the early days, I believe it was like I talked with you. It was like we were learning how to fly a plane, I believe, while we were in the air.
Right.
So
Right.
I go back to there weren't many of us. I know Tony Tugrai and I joined about the same time, but I remember
Yep.
our very first Smile Doctor meeting in the Atlanta Marriott Airport Hotel. I think we had 6 orthodontists.
Yep.
And, back then you didn't have an option as to what bracket system you want to use. It was using the Damon system, which for me personally, I used. So it wasn't a big deal, but it made sense because I think Greg and Dana and both you used the Damon system. So,
Right.
it made sense. But, there were very, so it was one of those things that, the biggest thing, the hardest thing is the fact that I lost my brand. Instead of Margeson Orthodontics,
Yep.
it was now Smile Doctors, and it was really difficult with the dentist. I had a pretty large referral based practice, so we had a reception at the country club. Dana and Craig came to, and I hosted all the dentists, and it was some of the dentists supported me, some didn't, for no reason other than they just didn't like corporate.
Right.
And so
we have that same bias today all over the place, and just because even though we can show how we are different,
I think
but
that
it still
makes
happens.
I think that makes you work harder. We rolled out the call center, which we call internally the patient service center. And, in a small town, USA, southern Georgia, that was, met with a tremendous amount of resistance. So I had to I visited every referring dentist office personally, talked to the front office, gave them our direct referral line. So it was, it was a lot of work, but I think the whole thing is, it's like anything. If I'm going to be involved in it, I want to lift it up. So I had to roll up my sleeves, and I honestly worked harder than I did before the sale of my practice into Smile Doctors. But I think it's like anything, when you put sweat equity in it, it means more. So, and I've met, not only you, a lot of people through the years, and so it's been very, very rewarding. I mean, I'm still with it 8.5 years later. I think that ought to speak volumes.
I agree. I think, Dal, what I've always admired about you is just how much you have been willing to work, to change, to give feedback, and then just to go and push forward. I think your position has been very unsung, not real glorious. In fact, you've taken a ton of arrows as joining as one of the first over the years. But the way that you've done it is by getting out there with relationships and showing and just basically saying, you know what, come see who we are, see the results that we produce, how we take care of patients, and you've just won people over through relationships. I've always admired your willingness to put in the work and the way that you communicate. It's awesome. So those early days, no question, were a struggle. We learned a lot of lessons. We went through a lot of heartache, the rebranding, the having everybody change clinically into one way. What have been some of the positives that you've seen over the time? And I think many of them are because of your feedback, because of your asking and really pushing us forward in that way. Talk about some of those.
Well, I think I'd say in probably January 2020, where we have not necessarily a change in leadership, specifically when Jay Hedrick came on, and David Nolan, I think shortly thereafter. We had great leadership in the beginning with Scotty Hudspeth, but I think transitioning into probably the number one change that was made is no longer is basically keeping your brand, which I think is extremely crucial. Mm-hmm. That by far, just that one change was big, and I think just little things. Just to give you a specific example, this may sound not like a big deal, but in our system, we take photographs at every appointment of every adjustment, which at first I was resistant. I'm like, that's a lot of extra work. But when you look at it from risk management, I think it's an unbelievable practice. And I would, if I weren't with Smile Doctors, I would incorporate that in my practice today. But, so we had to save 20 minutes to do an adjustment and take photographs. Well,
Right.
I'm like, that's not possible. We need a 30-minute adjustment block. And that might sound minor or trivial, but it makes a big difference. So it's just, we fought hard to, really fought hard to, for these changes. And I think, the leadership is receptive. I think it's still a top-down, orthodontist-driven organization where, you are the in charge of the clinical side, but you're also part of the management and the decision making. So I would say it's very pro-orthodontist.
Yeah,
So,
I agree. The way that I love it phrased is always, we're patient-centric, doctor-driven. And that's how things get done, and always putting the patient at the forefront of what's going to be the best for them. Your example of taking clinical photographs, man, it makes you a better orthodontist real quick, and allows you to see, what am I missing? How is this progressing? What isn't working? What is working? It's just right there to talk about hygiene improvements or a great job on the rubber bands. You made so much connection. I totally agree.
Well, I think another one of the really large changes in it, probably if for the doctors, is the compensation model. Back initially, you got paid a salary, and your equity was your bonus.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, for me, I'm self-motivated, and I was, I'm in it to help. Our equity obviously is an important part of it. But I think in the model now, yes, you would get a salary, and then if you are really producing at a high level, then you can get a bonus, and it can be even paid in provider shares, which is in equity.
Right.
So it really helps you get vested in the company. So, on the collection side as well. So, so that's been huge. And that's something that Jay Hedrick specifically had everything to do with, because prior to him, that was not the case. So, I think that's, it really gets you motivated.
I agree. I totally agree. Yeah. So there's been a lot of change. There's been advantages and disadvantages. Talk about some of those as being a part of a large organization.
Well,
what do you see there?
Just the resources is a major advantage. Specifically, we are the largest provider of Invisalign in the world.
Right.
So, that's and me personally. I didn't do a lot of Invisalign prior to affiliation. Now we have probably 2 or 3 of the largest Invisalign practices in the country in our organization. So I've learned a lot. I've learned, just what you can and can't do, but also just to have the ability to do. Now we offer like Smile Express treatment, which is a limited treatment, which was popular by some of the direct-to-consumer companies, but now it's driven by the doctor. And where after you have a full set of records, if that patient qualifies, then that's a nice service to be able to offer, and as well as just maybe 1 or 2 aligners or limited tooth movement now can be done through Invisalign in a very cost-effective manner. So, obviously that, and then just the collaboration, able to post cases online and have your colleagues weigh in.
Yep.
In a fixed standpoint, I learned a lot. I thought I knew it all before I joined, But I have really learned a tremendous amount clinically, both with fixed and in the aligners. But I think the other thing that has been really a major advantage is I've learned how to become a better leader and leading the team. Our practice in Albany, and I would have to give the credit to my team, specifically my now office manager, Tina Campbell. We more than doubled in size in an 8.5 year period, which is just a staggering, very humbling, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of the orthodontists, I have been humbled, to say the least. I mean, we have some unbelievable practitioners in our group, and it's been extremely exciting. The bar is set very high. Now you've got partners that you got to be accountable for. So, I don't want to be the weak link. Yep. Challenges. The obvious would be, change doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
In the private practice world, and which is probably an advantage, because a lot of times you could make an emotional decision. For instance, if I want to buy a 3D machine because I went to the latest meeting, then I'm on the phone with a rep and buy it. Now, you have everything you need to compete and more. But it's just a little different. And, you got to think like, you have partners. So you can't selfishly, it's not all about me.
Right. Right.
So, those are some of the challenges. But, there's really no obstacle that, nobody affects, the treatment decisions are mine.
Yeah.
The only thing that we're uniform on is the practice management system, which is really makes a lot of sense. Of course we need to be all on one system, Cloud 9 in our case, which allows us to have the internal metrics and things. So there's, there's no, I've talked with a lot of orthodontists. It's not like all problems go away when you join Smile Doctors. Yes, you've had HR lifted off you, but you still are the leader, and you set the tone.
Yep.
You run it like an owner, even if you weren't the owner.
That's right. That's right.
In other words, you come in behind somebody, and that is just crucial. Yep,
I agree. Dal, let's talk about one of the things, again, what I admire about you is your willingness to operate on behalf of all of your partners. And so you're willing to do things that are in the best interest of the company, in the best interest of your partners and the patients that way. Tell us about your approach. You're such an example like that. So why did you decide to do that? Why has that been the best way to operate in your opinion? Talk about that.
Well, in my initial commitment, which is, I would imagine, fairly standard, was, to give 5 years in the clinic. So, after that point in time, you kind of wonder, do you want to keep doing what you've been doing? Maybe a little change, it would be natural. I had been in clinical practice for, coming, right at 30 years. So I just decided, do I go into the business development side or do I stay clinical? And I think my strength is clinical. So now I'm licensed in 5 states, so I fill in a lot of offices. I've been in 20 different offices probably in the last few years. But I would say what really, where I get the most satisfaction at this point is uplifting teams. It is amazing how I go in an office and just try to really, that the team is everything. And, they know that I understand the culture that we're building. So if I go into an office, for instance, I was up in Columbus, Ohio this summer, covering for somebody on maternity leave, and and I'm like, I start the huddle out just like I would in any office. I'm like, how many, what do we need to get goal? I'm like, if we need to double book the exam column to help get it over the finish line, I get a lot of satisfaction in seeing the team reach their goals. So
right.
I really, and I feel like I've been freed up to work on patients without all the background noise of trying to manage a large ortho practice. So I'm just laser focused on patient treatment. And given, I try to take the analogy, since we're in the NFL playoffs now, is I don't ever take a play off. In other words, that patient is there for a quick, check. You've got to bring energy. You've got to connect. You've got to make be the best part of their day, because everybody, has a lot going on personally that they're not going to express. So that's what I enjoy. I enjoy uplifting teams, and I enjoy taking care of patients. That's why I'm a healthcare provider.
I love that. I might take it even a step further, where I feel it is our duty and our obligation, because of our position, to lead.
Yes.
And to build up our team, to help them see, and all of our patients see, what's possible in their life. And it's our job to bring that energy because of our position. We've been blessed with so much. It just takes the smallest kind word to slow down, take a minute, meet that patient almost at eye level, and just check in on them, see how they're doing outside of their teeth, right? And when we have that type of a connection, where we're a safe place to land with them, their emotions, we believe in them, we look at them, we smile, and we're excited for the change about them, man, it's just inspiring, and it fills up my cup so much. And when the orthodontists that I see do that, they love what they do. They love what they do. Sure, we all have to deal with stuff. Stuff doesn't go right. There's stuff during the day that we have hiccups here and there, problems. We stub our toe on this or that. We make it right. We fix it. But man, what's so fulfilling is that patient interaction, is the interaction with the team, where we're rubbing elbows with them, high-fiving when things go great, the plan gets pulled off, everything's working. It's awesome. I love that part of it.
Well, absolutely. And, back in some of our early meetings, we would have breakout sessions on essentially doing like a mock exam. And I remember Dana Fender led that particular breakout session. And, what I learned from him was, don't go in there and spend 20 minutes talking about how great you are. I mean, that's not what they're here for. Just make it about them. What can I do? And connect. And so that's been powerful. So now when I go in, taking it a step further, we're scanning the new patient. And then when I walk into the room, we've got the before-after simulation pulled up, and basically I'll talk with the parent and connect, and then just say, look, we've got here on the left is your before and here's your after. We're going to correct the bite. It's probably going to take 2 to 2.5 years, and you have any questions for me? And then the last thing I say on the way out is, look, I'm going to take care of your kid, period.
Yeah.
And, because we're selling trust, they trust that I'm going to take care of them or their child. And then I leave. So I'm in the room probably less than 4 minutes, but it's and I've learned, it's a learned skill, but I've learned that because we got a lot of amazing orthodontists in our group, and that's made it a lot of fun.
Yeah, Dal, you're nailing it right now. You're getting me so excited, because right now we're in the middle of planning our annual Small Doctors Summit for our doctors. Yes. That's coming up in a few months, and this is a major focus. So we're bringing this back. This is it, like the new patient exam, the doctor's role in the new patient exam. And it's all about trust. It's not about us, standing up with the white coat and looking all professional and having everyone go, oh, the doctor. No, they don't care. They know you're already qualified. They want to know, how much do you care about them? And to your point, you brought up Fender again. I remember when I saw him, I went in and this was in 2013, I believe, maybe 12. And I went to Douglas, Georgia, where he was practicing and watched him do an exam. And I thought I was pretty hot stuff. Like, I thought I had it figured out. Right. And he would come in and essentially would just give hugs the whole time, whether it was just emotionally in a connection or physically. He'd give a little side hug with the parents. He just had that reputation and in connection with all the people who came in that day, went to church with half of them and all sorts of stuff. But would just look them in the eyes and say, we're going to take care of your daughter. She's going to have a beautiful smile. Really look forward to this and how we can make this affordable for you. And that was it. He would diagnose, treatment plan, get this all set, and then out the door. And the parents knew it to their core. And that's the key.
Yeah, it is. One of the things that I've had by covering a lot of offices in the last couple of years, when I go into an office, I'll do a mock exam. So I'll sit in, I'll be the treatment coordinator, and I'll have the treatment coordinator come in as a new patient. And it's amazing how that is, we got to have the proper intro. Hey, this is Dr. Margeson. He's going to take a look at your daughter. And we do just a little flow, and I'm like, we want to have the scan on the front end because it's very educational, and so it's just very exciting. A lot of these, I'm like, you've already got the scanner, you've got the technology, and I'm like, let's do the smile morph, the before and after, and so it's really exciting, to have the resources to to make the practice better. And I look forward to our meeting because I think that's a big focus is, what, if we can standardize the exam process, how amazing that is.
Yeah. What'll be fun. We're going to take all the doctors and do these different breakouts and do mock exams. Same thing, kind of role play this. And because I know you have some things you say when there's a kid who comes in, has a deficient chin, and how do you talk about it? How do you make them feel comfortable? How do you address surgery? How do you address, different treatment options and still instill, confidence that way? What are some of your signature moves that you use? I think getting the collection, this is what makes us so powerful, is that in my opinion, we have some of the very, very best orthodontists in the whole world, to where we can share things we've learned over an entire career with some of these new young doctors who are just going to soak this in. And I'm excited to get a collection of all these, best things to say, what not to say, and really come out of that meeting with it. So it's gonna be awesome.
Well, yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Cool. So
especially it's hard to get 350 orthodontists together, but now we have the annual meeting. So much energy, and it's just so inspiring. It's a time to network, learn, and it really gets you inspired going forward. So I know we'll be in Louisville, Kentucky this year. Last year we were in San Antonio, so we kind of move around, which I think is awesome.
Yep, and that's your backyard right now.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. So you talked a little bit about the future. What are you optimistic for as you look forward?
Well, I think right now just the general sentiment is, there's a new day in America. I think the next 10 years, I'm extremely optimistic. And I think what really excites me is I think it's a great time. I think it's the next 10 years, our company can really grow. And what I really like is probably is the fact that we have a lot of younger orthodontists joining our group. That's very inspiring. It's not just for somebody that has 5 years and they're done. And that really
Right.
keeps the energy. We've got, just a couple of examples, but then Fishbein in Florida joining 4 or 5 years ago, and Amanda Gallagher in Maryland joining several years ago. They still have a lot of runway left. So I think one of the things that I really like that we've done, I think, is now we allow a joint venture model. Now, back when I joined, there was no joint venture; it was 100%. You were all in. But for my personality, the way I'm wired, I probably would have done it that way anyway. But, that doesn't, not for everybody. And I think that's a great. So if you own 20-30% of your practice, you're certainly vested. And now you have the ability to be able to partner with Smile Doctors. So I've talked to I've probably talked to 100 orthodontists in the last 8 years about the, pros and the cons. And to me, in the world that we're in, I think we've gotten I feel like you could be more successful in the long run in a partnership like Smile Doctors versus being on your own. And, that's been my goal all along. I wanted my delivery of services to be better with Smile Doctors than it was with Margeson Orthodontics.
Love it, Dal. Always looking to make everything better around you. Fantastic. So, looking back 8.5 years ago, would you do it again? And if so, what advice would you have for somebody who's looking to affiliate now?
Well, yeah, I absolutely would do it again. I think now that for people that are joining, there's a lot of historical perspective. So the questions I always get are, oh my gosh, what's the staff gonna do? When we join Smile Doctors, and my answer is, they're probably gonna be better off. I mean, the benefit package is better. You can guarantee your staff that day one they have a job. Now, can you guarantee in 6 months that they have a job? Of course not. But can you guarantee that in private practice? I mean, that's just the way life is. If they're a team player, I've got 4 people that have been with me 20 plus years in my office right now. So that would be, 20 years, 21 years on my own, and then 8 with Smile Doctors. And then I have another 4 that have been with me, 7 to 10 years, and all that's been post affiliation. So, to me, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. And it's just an unbelievable group of orthodontists, and we have the resources available to provide, state-of-the-art care. So, no longer, you talk about the early days, we would have a room at the AAO and kind of like slip in the back room without anybody see you going into the Smile Doctor booth. It was tough. We took a lot of arrows. Now it's like, I'm a part of Smile Doctors, and I feel like with your leadership in particular, our reputation is really very good. So to me, if I were looking to join an OSO, obviously I would go. Smile Doctors would be the top of the list because we've got a proven track record.
Yeah. Thank you, Dal. It's very humbling. To represent the incredible orthodontists in our organization is extremely humbling. We have some of the very, very finest people and finest orthodontists that I know. Awesome. Well, here, I want to ask you some kind of off the wall questions. So this will be fun. Just getting to know you a little bit better. If you weren't an orthodontist, what would you be?
I would be, before, believe it or not, I was a finance major at Georgia, and I was, had already been accepted into law school. Now, obviously I didn't go to law school, but I would have been a tax attorney.
Okay.
I had an uncle in Atlanta that was a tax attorney I really looked up to. So I probably would have gotten my JD and then gone on to get my CPA and been a tax attorney. I wouldn't have wanted to be a litigator, but my dream job would be maybe a high school football coach.
Ooh, yeah.
I really love, kids, especially in the 14 to 18-year range. I wouldn't want to be the head coach, but I'd want to be a position coach. But I love the passion. Sports or football in particular is a lot of like life. You get knocked down, you got to get, right back up. You work hard, and, you're part of the team. So I really enjoyed. I coached my son in middle school, and we just had a ball doing it.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. Who is your real life hero?
Well, it'd be my father. So he passed away when I was 20. So I hadn't actually been accepted to dental school at this time. But I came along a little later in life, and I'm glad I made it. But so my dad went to dental school during the war. So back then, when World War II was in the 40s, we ran through dental school in 3 years instead of 4. And his first assignment was in Okinawa. I mean, if you can imagine. Now, obviously, he wasn't on the front lines, but he saw a lot. And so, I mean, to me, that's an American hero. He served his country. And as far as, he was the father and wife for 41 years and, raised 5 people. And he was, family first. He was the most unselfish person I ever met. Never complained, ever. So that would be my role model. That's a hero to me.
That's awesome. Sounds like an incredible man. That's fantastic. Talk some about what are some overused phrases that annoy you?
Well, if any of my staff ever listen to this, it would be no bueno. And I got that. Where did I get that? And I blame Jay Hedrick for this, because when we had a meeting in 2021 in February down at Amelia Island, I picked it up from Jay. And it's like, if something's done, they know I'm not going to approve. It's no bueno.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. What trait do you deplore in others?
Well, if you tell me you're going to do something, I expect it to be done. So if you're not a person of your word, then I deplore that.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with that.
It's just that simple.
Yep. All right. And then last, let's see. What talent would you like to have that you don't have now?
Well, I'd love to be a professional athlete.
Sure.
I would love to be a PGA golfer. My second talent would have been, and it's not today, not at 60, but I would have liked to have been a defensive back in the NFL.
Oh yeah, that's sweet. Okay, so I know what position coach.
Yes.
I know what position coach you would have liked to do in high school. So yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Dal, I just have to tell you again, just as I reflect back and take some time now and again to look back on Smile Doctors, our journey, how blessed we are. I am so grateful for you. I'm grateful for your faith and trust to join an unknown thing and to go all in on it, and then to work so hard to grow it and have impact and influence. And I just see you were the perfect first partner to get this going, to set the standard for those who came after you, and how you've just welcomed everyone with open arms and continued to make us better and better every day. And so thank you for the difference that you make in Smile Doctors, for the difference that you make with all of your patients, with your team. And you're an example to all of us. So love you, brother. And thanks for your partnership.
Well, thank you, Scott. I really, it's been an amazing ride. And I tell you, I have enjoyed being, I do it for the partner doctors that we have as well, because, initially I'm like, I'm not sure I would want to do this long term, but now I've met so many amazing people that, I don't, we're part of a team, and it's very rewarding. And so I do it for you. You've been a great leader. You stayed in there, and I do it for all the other partner doctors. I haven't met them all. I look forward to meeting more at the next meeting. But it's been truly. I'm really excited about the next 10 years. I think we have a long way to go.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think we're on a great trajectory. I think orthodontics as a profession is at an interesting spot, especially with all that's happening with technology and around aligners, around the DTC movement, and it's just a matter of, man, I think as Smile Doctors, we're positioned to really take advantage, to set the tone, raise the bar for putting patients first, having this be doctor driven, and really preserve our profession and our specialty. So I'm excited for all that's ahead. This is awesome.
Yes, it's been great.
Yep. Fantastic, brother. Well, thanks for taking the time and for letting us get to know you. And awesome. Hope you have an awesome day.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks, brother.